with more parents. You're speaking with more parents today about cyber safety for our kids. My name is Siobhan Dolan. I'm a cybersecurity enthusiast, and I'm a solutions consultant with LexisNexis Risk Solutions, which is how I know my compatriots, Parul Sharma and Ryan Policarpio. We're going to be taking you through the first session, but I'd like for Ryan to introduce himself.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ryan Policarpio. I'm also part of the solutions consulting team at LexisNexis Risk Solutions, along with Siobhan. And glad to be here to speak with all of you to talk about creating awareness around cybersecurity for our kids. So thank you for having us.
And feel free to pop questions into the chat. Parul's going to hopefully be able to monitor that for us. So if you do have any questions or if you'd like us to repeat anything, please be liberal with the chat function. Ryan, do you want to present the deck?
No. I think it needs to be enabled. It's saying that it's disabled.
Oh, let me try.
It's disabled.
So you're not able to share the screen? Is that what it's saying?
Yes.
Huh, okay, let's see if I can fix it for you.
Let me try. Oh yeah, host disabled participant screen sharing. Can you make me the host again?
Yes, I will do that right away. Yeah, can you share?
Yeah.
Great.
To see if I can do presentation. Present mode. And hopefully I am displaying the
Yes, I can see it.
Screen.
I can see it, yes.
Great.
So Siobhan, one quick thing, because you're sharing and I don't want to reclaim myself as a host again, because that might stop you or prevent you from sharing your screen. So you'll have to take care of the attendees.
No
Sorry.
worries. No
Okay,
worries.
thank you.
I can click the button, no problem at all. Ryan, I might just lean on you a little bit for keeping me on track if I get distracted.
No worries, lean away.
All right. So welcome everyone again. This is the first session for this set that we have a 3-part series. The first session that Ryan and I are going to take you through today is navigating the dangers of social media with your kids. The second session, Parul, I might need you to help me out again because I'm now a split screen and I lost my notes.
Sure.
But our second session focuses on specific browser safety. And then our third session focuses on safeguarding your child's identity and kind of the dangers that go along with our identity online. Did I miss anything?
No, you did not.
So we'll go ahead and jump in here. You're going to see a variety of us. Ryan and I are going to be taking you through today's material, and another session is going to be presented by Parul and Skip. And then another session will be presented by myself and Parul. So we're kind of mixing it up for you each day. And our agenda for this evening is to review our objectives and our hopeful takeaways, review what COPPA is, and we will identify specific risks that come from online interactions and engagements. We're going to look at what the potential outcomes can be and have some discussions around potential stories that we have there. We're going to go over some do's and don'ts. We're going to conclude, and then we will have time for Q&A. And again, if you can use your chat function, that will be great.
Yep,
Right.
and please don't limit the Q&As necessarily to the last part of our talk. We certainly want to keep this interactive. So as Siobhan mentioned in the beginning, feel free to interrupt early and often. We like we want to create a dialogue here. That's one of the takeaways that we hope to have with this conversation.
Exactly. All right. It looks like we have a couple of questions already. Great. Our rule took care of it. Awesome. All right. Put this over here and hopefully everyone can. Very good. All right. I'll just pop over to the next one. Yes. Fix my view. There we go. Brian, do you want to?
Yeah, absolutely. So as we begin this first section around objectives and takeaways, the overarching takeaway, if you will, of this initial session is to really understand the mechanism around digital safety and the risks and potential outcomes, so that once we understand the mechanism, we can deter victimization. So there's a really great quote by Dr. Stephen Hassan, where he says that the only form of self-defense you can have is understanding the mechanism by which you become a victim the first time. Otherwise, you could just very easily dive into something else. So if we can be aware of what the mechanisms are, what the signals are when victimization is occurring, then the better equipped we're going to be to mitigate those issues and to create methods, if you will, to prevent them.
Yeah.
So
Creating safe spaces and safe habits. We're really about habits and recognizing patterns, and kids especially are excellent at seeing things that may or may not be there. And so we want to point out the things that really are there and kind of help you wave a flag to say, stay out of that dangerous area. The rest of it is okay, but this over here is a dangerous spot. And we want to give you the words, the vocabulary, and the confidence to talk about the specific risks with your kids so that they have a clear, wide-eyed understanding of how the internet works and how they operate within it. One kind of like little pro tip that I would like to share with everyone has to do more with human interaction than cybersecurity, but there's an overlap here that I hope to communicate. If I like somebody too quickly, or if I am inclined to do somebody a favor after knowing them less than a day, or less than a week, or less than a month, depending on the type of favor that that person is asking from me, I need to stop and say, would I do this same favor for somebody that I know in real life? And under what circumstances would I do that particular favor? The internet is a funny place because you can develop a relationship much more quickly, and the relationship germination process is very condensed, or it can be condensed in an online fast interaction type of environment. So just keep that thing in mind of just slow down and take your time with building relationships online, and challenging our kids to pump the brakes, I know can be really difficult, but if we caution them on diving too quickly into a friendship with someone online, that can prevent a lot of problems. So again, like Ryan said, we're here to create awareness. We want you to have healthy social media hygiene yourself, and also pass that on to your children. We want to let you know kind of what safe alternatives exist. And we are definitely going to give you resources at the end of this so that you can do additional follow-up, additional research, all of the links and information that we've curated for you, we've gone through it ourselves. We feel that it is quality and applicable material, so hopefully it's useful for you.
And to caveat this, this is not certainly meant to be comprehensive or exhaustive in any way. There's certainly no way we can cover every single thing in this 1 hour session, but what we want to do is spark that dialogue of that awareness and having those conversations. And these things are constantly evolving, right? Just as we are here now talking about ways we can identify risks, there's probably new ways that the bad guys are thinking of new ways to create other risks. So it's a constant cat and mouse game, but as long as we're having this conversation, I think it's a step in the right direction to furthering or preventing serious incidents down the line.
Yep. Yeah. Another little pro tip that I would like to share, this may be, I'm curious what your kids would think about this. My pro tip is to choose a boring alias. Now, you might think, well, why? Why wouldn't I say, Lollipop 1999? The reason is that the age of the person often is reflected in the alias or the username, or like the first part of the email address or the Twitter handle or the Instagram handle or the TikTok alias. You have a lot of opportunity to display your personality in your alias. And I would suggest something boring for kids specifically, so that they are less of an obvious magnet for icky people online. So don't put your birth year, don't put your graduation year, don't reference time at all in your aliases. I made that mistake when I was a youngin', and my first AOL AIM name had a 5 and a 6 in it. It was very poor planning on my part because that reflects the part of my birthday. Bad idea. Don't do as I do as I say.
Siobhan, are we allowed to ask questions?
Sure.
I guess Ryan said yes. So the audience here are specific to elementary school parents. And I know that my daughter likes creating usernames which are more aligned to her interests, and she might give away her birth date. She might also give away sometimes the address of her house. So my question to the audience is, are your kids at an age where they've started using social media? Because that's a big question. And my daughter is in 5th grade and she is not on social media, but I know of other kids who are 10 and who are a part of social media. So if you could please mention in the chat, if you're okay, whether, I just want to know, I'm just curious, do parents allow their kids to be on social media when they're in elementary school? I hope not, but I would like.
You can just say in the chat if it's something that you practice with your kids now. That would just be helpful for us. It kind of anchors us in a concrete space, meeting you all where you're at. So if you could take a moment to share. I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old, and we have only created PlayStation Network. I think it's just an email address for my 7-year-old. So my 4-year-old does not have an email yet. But even if your kid has an email is an access point to a lot of different services online, as we know. So if you have an email address for your child, that's a big step, because that can be an inspiration for aliases down the line.
Yeah, and I just want to share another statistics. Kids are the easiest target for fraudsters, for bad people.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, the chances are parents would not even know how their kids were victimized. Maybe they'll tell you a story when they grow up, but most parents are completely unaware of what their kids are going through. And this is all because of social media. And I always say this to any parent that I meet, that, hey, the best thing that we can do is have a conversation with our kids. We cannot protect them. We cannot. That's how the world is. But we can give them the right tools. For example, what just Shivan mentioned, don't give away your date of birth, don't give away your address, don't give away your phone number, please. Kids do that because those are the numbers that come to their mind right away. So they'll be like, hey, I'm unicorn 14, whatever my address is. Kids do that all the time. So it's an opportunity for us to educate our kids that, hey, keep it boring, don't give away numbers, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Parul. Thank you, Marlo. Yeah, even chat apps like Kik, the chat app called Kik, it's K-I-K. That's a peer-to-peer communication app that kids were using or have been using. I think it's been around for the past like 10 years. It's been around for a while, but it's still relatively new in 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 comparison to myself, it's still relatively new. That is a problematic place. Kik is a problematic place. If you'd like to know more about Kik, there is an episode of Darknet Diaries podcast that goes into some explicit details about what the Kik platform has allowed on its site.
Shivan, we have a question. Could you please explain what Kik is? And I spelled it K-I-K. Did I spell it right?
Yeah, Kik.
Okay,
Yep.
thank
K-I-K. Yep. Kik is a messaging app. It's kind of like WhatsApp. It's kind of like Messenger. It's just another peer-to-peer messaging app where you can create a profile and talk to anyone on the internet. Kik has different focus or interest groups that you can join, so you can be in multiple chats at once. If you remember the old like IRC or the Internet Relay Chat, or if you remember AOL AIM, and you could go into chat rooms, Kik is kind of like that.
And just so you all know, we will be in our next session, we will be talking about what can you do to monitor your kids' chat. There are softwares, there are other resources that we are going to present to you. And you have to believe me, some parents, and I have stories where parents use these apps and it helped them protect their kids in many, many different ways. So I'm not saying don't trust, I don't trust my kids. All I'm saying is no matter how much I trust them, there are bad guys out there. And unfortunately, internet has just broadened our reach. Our kids are no longer communicating with kids in our community. The moment they step into the digital world, their world has expanded exponentially, which means they have access to all good and bad people. And unfortunately, bad people are more curious and are more interested in taking advantage of our kids. So sorry, we are in this space, and because we are in this space, we know what the dangers are. So we're not trying to scare anyone, but we're just making sure that you have the right tools to do what is right.
Yes. We're here to inform, not scare. We're here to arm you with information. Information is power, and we just want you to know what is out there so that you can adequately talk with your child and defend them. All right, there's no more questions. So what's really important is for you to define what an appropriate relationship is that your child has online. Based on their age, that's going to change. So Parul, just so you know, Rupal just entered. So your child's interactions online are going to change based on their age. So our elementary school kids may be online with classmates, cousins, friends from school, other, recreational sports players. They could just go on there just to be on there like everybody else, but there's going to be different types of relationships that come into your kid's orbit naturally. And so think about that natural evolution of relationships that your child is going to go through in their life and compact it down, and it's all available on the internet right when they get on. So just to make sure that your child understands what an appropriate relationship is between them and their internet pal. And that's a conversation that you really just have to foster and explore with your child. Okay, next question. Very good. So we're going to review what COPPA is. And of course, I don't think I put down what COPPA actually stands for. I don't think I did that.
It's there at the top, Children's Online Privacy
Thank
Protection.
you. Of course, I put it in the title and I'm looking at my notes, of course.
I got you covered, Siobhan.
Okay, thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, so COPPA stands for the Children's Online Privacy Protection Rule. So there's some text here as a takeaway for the group here. We'll hand these slides over to you so you can peruse it at your leisure. But essentially what it is a set of rules that was implemented so that operators of websites or online services would have rules in place as to how they marketed to children under 13 years of age and how they collected personal information or did not collect personal information that would identify minors, and basically just how they operate. This was passed in, I think, the late 90s.
Yep.
As a response to how internet usage really exploded during that time, and there's this rapid growth of online marketing, and it really did not discern or distinguish between different age groups. So operators of these sites were held liable for collecting lots of information from minors at that time. So COPPA was established. Not only that, the FTC has gotten involved as well, and they have established their own guidelines that help website operators and now app operators ensure their compliance with COPPA. So that includes several things, which we'll show on the next slide, but things like clearly displaying downloadable consent forms, clearly displaying privacy policies describing how their information practices are and what that looks like in terms of collecting personal information. Privacy notices specific to parents about how their children's data is being collected and used, and taking reasonable procedures to protect the privacy of children, et cetera, et cetera. So COPPA covers all of these types of situations. And so I'm not sure if you had anything else to add.
Yeah, I wanted to just call out that COPPA was put in place in 1997 or 1998. So if you all can remember back to those days, that was when I was in elementary school and well, probably more middle school, 1997, 98. Yeah, that was middle school for me. So it has been a while and the COPPA rules haven't aged very gracefully. There are other legislative acts that are being drafted through different legislative bodies and enforcement bodies. COPPA, as Ryan said, is a Federal Trade Commission piece of legislation, and there may be other agencies that feel rules would better suit them. Department of Defense, Department of Health and Human Services kind of come to mind. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see additional legislation come out in the next 5 years that more granularly state what can and can't be done to attract and keep kids online. I think many of us have become familiar with the design of the Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and TikTok algorithms, where they are purpose-built to keep us on the platform. And children are much more susceptible to suggestion and direction than adults, generally speaking. And I also wanted to add that the COPPA age limit of 13 years old was arbitrary at the time, arbitrary. So 13 is no magical number. It's certainly not an age of sovereign decision-making. Obviously, that's 18. The age was an interesting rabbit hole to go down, but at the end of the day, many people allow their children access to these services who are not the age of 13. They're often younger. So, what does that mean really? Well, it doesn't really mean anything unless something goes majorly wrong. And then there could be liability on our parts as parents for letting our kid use a service before the appropriate age. But there wasn't any research that I came across that pointed to any parent ever being held liable for any online activity. However, legislation is weird, and there can always be some kind of stretch case where something weird happens. That's the only thing I wanted to call out, was the arbitrary reason for the year of the age of consent, I guess.
Siobhan, I'm so happy that you brought it up. So I just want to re-emphasize on what you said. As per COPPA, the age is 13. So basically what they're saying is, hey, once your child is above 13, according to them, they can make certain decisions, but please remember the age of maturity is not 13, it is 18. And between 13 and 18, kids are vulnerable. And I don't know if you've noticed, when you sign up your child on the website, there is an option where you have to check the box. Are you above the age of 13 or are you below the age of 13? And depending on what you check, there is a parental consent agreement, which most people don't read, and they just say, yes, 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 yes. My suggestion would be, please read through it. The reason is, the moment we start sharing our data, our kids' data on the internet, and this is what we'll cover in the third session, our kids become vulnerable. Their identity details are on the internet, which can be used by criminals. Actually, I said it wrong, which is used by criminals, because I'll just be melodramatic for next 30 seconds. So let's say I am an 11-year-old child, and somehow there is my name, my date of birth, and a couple of other things on the internet. Imagine from a fraudster's perspective, I can go apply for a credit card, and there is a huge chance, or there's a high likelihood, that the 11-year-old child will not find out that their credit or their credit card, which is not theirs, which was basically taken over by a bad user. So the bad user probably might be using it for years before I come to a realization that I have a bad credit history. And we will talk about specific examples in session 3 on how there are kids, when they apply for a college loan, they realize, oh, I'm already a bad user in the system. And it takes years for them to bring their credit history at the place where they would like it to be. So it's very important for you to understand that it's not a good idea to share your kids' information, and age 13 is not the right age. Sorry, Siobhan, I just wanted to re-emphasize what you said.
Yes, I agree. 13 is arbitrary and potentially meaningless line in the sand, but it is a line in the sand. And Parul, I'd like to piggyback off of the age of, I forget the term that you used.
Maturity.
But maturity, yeah. So the age of adulthood, a legal adult within the United States, is 18, but research into neuroscience and behavioral economics is suggesting now that people in general are not cognitively mature until the age of 25. So roast on that one for a second.
Yeah.
But Ryan, do you want to go through some of the first couple risks, and I'll do a couple of others?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is very important, right? Identifying the risks. Again, it goes back to really calling out that mechanism by which the victimization happens. So Some of the risks that can be identified are things such as grooming. All right, so this is what we see when we have a bad person preparing a child for some type of meeting with the intention of committing an offense. We also have things like identity and photo requests. So again, requesting for what we call personally identifiable information. So name, address, date of birth, phone number. These can all be used in nefarious ways, which we'll share in the next slide. But things like photos as well. So requests for inappropriate photos or videos, certainly red flags, but have serious consequences down the line.
Yes. And photos don't necessarily have to be explicit. So your child might just think that they're on a messaging app with another child, because that is what perpetrators will often do to lure. They will pretend to be a child of the same gender, or the same age, or roughly around that age. And with grooming and with requests for photos, there is a there's a new risk now. So as Ryan said in the beginning, the threat landscape is always changing. We're always the cat in this cat and mouse chase. Online photos are now becoming much more easily manipulated, and a child's face can be put on the body of another person, potentially another child, and that child may have been exploited already. And so the danger gets very dark very quickly, but the best practice is for your child to not share photos of themselves. Take photos of the dog, take photos of the backyard. Those are okay, but photos of themselves or their bodies, please, please, please talk to your kids about not sharing photos or what types of photos are okay to share. Again, it's defining that appropriate relationship. And for kids, my phone reel is half full with photos my daughter has taken with different funny filters on. So this may be difficult for them to grasp, but taking photos is okay. Sharing photos between someone that you don't know and have never met, that's not okay. And we'll go through that a little bit later as well. Yeah, the logical brain not fully. Yeah. Thank you, Marlo. Yes, I'm glad somebody else has heard that research. We'll talk about a couple of the other risks here. So kids know where our wallets are, and kids know what payment instruments do, and they are unfortunate lures for money scams. It's relatively straightforward if you get engaged into a conversation with a child that they can be requested to do small, innocuous things like, hey, go find mom's wallet and only pick out the red card. Okay, well, the red card could be my Target card. It could be my B of A card. It could be, my my Delta card, So a red card in mom's wallet, it could literally be anything. And then that child can just read off the numbers and read off mom's name on the front of the card. Oh, and there's funny little numbers in a funny little place on the back of the card. All of these things can be coaxed out of kids kind of like it's a game. So it's really important, again, for you to define what appropriate communication includes when the child is conversing with someone in a chat or in any kind of context. Like this can be a chat in a video game. This can be a chat on a social media platform, which is our prime focus here. It can be a chat through the Google Classroom. It's just really tempting everywhere to share, especially since the COVID lockdowns and our kids are starved for socialization and that friendship connection. We're kind of in a hotbed of potential mess just because we've been disconnected from each other for the last 2.5 years. This is exceptionally exacerbated within our kids. And so it's something to pay extra attention to, like we need something else to worry about, right? But this is why we're having this discussion. So requests for money are popular with predators online when they're targeting children, because children are a little bit more trusting than perhaps they ought to be, but that's why we love them, right? Well, maybe not the only reason, but anywho, phishing and smishing. Phishing is spelled with a PH. Phishing is threats delivered through email specifically. So a phish is an email and a smish is a text message. There's also a vish now, which is a voice message that has some dangerous content within it. And Ryan, is there another weird term that's come out recently with the ishing?
Oh, phishing, smishing, and vishing were
Phishing.
the
Those are the main ones. Anyway, it doesn't really matter, but these are again lures. These are lures, and any smish or fish or vish is just meant to cue curiosity and get somebody to just take a next step. So if you get a message or an email that you were not expecting, it's good to be proactively paranoid and just assume that there's malicious content in this fish, smish, or vish. And pause before you click on anything. And this lesson goes triple for kids. Just pause before you click on something. If someone sends you a message and it has a link, have the kid bring it to you so that you can look at it and you can say, oh, okay, yeah, this is just like an activation code for the game. You know, this was expected. This is okay. This is from Aunt Edna and she's just sending me the banana cake recipe. That's fine. Just be aware of who you're communicating with. If you get a random text message from some not unknown number, and maybe even from your own area code, and it just says, hi, and nothing else, and you don't have this number saved, and you were not expecting a hi from anybody, ignore it, delete, block. You don't have to engage. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say nothing and block. It's okay. You don't have to be concerned with decorum and like social rules. It's okay to say no and walk away. It's okay. And then the biggest factor when it comes to all of us being susceptible for any kind of compromise is when someone places their urgency on us. So I need your help right away. I need you to get me this code. I need you to get me this phone number. I need you to tell me where you live right now because I need to send help because the neighbor's house across the street is on fire. You know, panic can induce people to action, but we want thoughtful action. We don't just want a reaction. Urgency is priming the person for immediate response, reaction, reaction, reaction. And in the reaction before taking a step to think, that is where the danger always is. In the reaction to this unknown urgent event, that is where the danger is. That's the danger of taking that next step in engaging with someone who does not have your best intentions in mind. And anytime someone is pushing urgency on you, one of my favorite things to remember is urgency on your part does not equate to an emergency for me. Again, it's very dependent on the scenario, but in general, if someone is attacking you with urgency, that is the best time to take extra seconds to think about what is happening. And do you really need to engage in this urgent discussion with another person that you've never met? No, the answer is no. For kids during school hours. Parul, can you maybe take down a Post-it?
Yes,
And the
yes.
question is, can we have similar session catered for kids starting, I'm sorry, for kids in school during school hours? Yeah, sure.
Yes, yes, I made a note of it, yes.
Thank you.
Or maybe in the evenings. Oh, yeah, definitely, yes.
Oh, yes. I understand now. I
Yeah, so
understand better. Yes.
basically the ask is, can we
Speaking
make
directly
this
to kids.
exactly? So
Yes.
one quick thing, Shivan, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I can understand why this request came up, because when I tell my daughter about all those things, and you can relate to it because we both work in cybersecurity and we understand the dangers and this, we're always paranoid. She'll be like, I don't even have a phone. Why are you giving me this information? And my 6-year-old, he says the same thing. I won't even have a phone for so many years. Why are you telling me this? And I always tell them, this is the time for you to learn the basic hygiene of internet. And it's all about repetition. Keep repeating it. Keep
Mhm.
repeating it. It's our job as a parent. And if I had any control on any parent, I would suggest, please don't give them a phone. One kid gets a phone, it creates unnecessary pressure on other kids. Our kids do not need a phone. If you're really concerned about their safety, if you want to open communication between yourself and the kids, get them a watch, get them a Gizmo watch, get them an Apple Watch, but no phone, please. It's the worst thing that you'll hand over to an elementary school kid.
I don't know if it's the worst thing, Parul. I mean, a live piranha is probably a little bit more.
One of the worst. I'm not even thinking about drugs and other things, but yeah, you're right. You're right.
The rainbow fentanyl fear
yeah.
for this Halloween.
Yeah.
Isn't it wonderful?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not the worst thing, but one of the worst things.
Yeah. Yes, I echo Parul. One of my, he's not a direct biological child of mine, but he's a child that I watch very frequently. He has a phone and he's the same age as my son. My son does not have a phone, and these boys are 7 years old, so second grade. And my borrowed child, my child on loan, has a phone just so he can communicate with his parents who are off traveling quite a bit. So it's very situational, but like Parul said, it puts unnecessary pressure on kids and especially on parents who have to purchase the dang thing. It puts an undue pressure on us, not only to have these kinds of conversations. It is a good opportunity always to have these kinds of open discovery conversations with our kids. But the minute that they get a device, they have to know this already. And
Yes.
so teach them this and then give them a phone. This
Give
has
them
to
a
come
flip
first,
phone.
though.
Shivan, give them do we still get flip phones?
Yeah.
Give them a flip
Razor?
phone.
Yeah.
A nice one,
I'm
pink,
sure
red.
you can still get a Nokia device or maybe
There
even
you
like
go.
a Sidekick. It's just
Yeah.
a big old brick. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a fairly comprehensive and slightly unnecessarily long list, that's my fault, of all of the different varieties of threats that exist online. So not all of these are going to be applicable for you and your child, but again, it's good to at least know what these words are and what they mean. And so defining these with your kids, or even just for yourself and your family, your brothers and sisters, your parents. This is, again, just another little dump of types of knowledge and things to be aware of. These are not things to fear. These are just things to be aware of. So, ransomware, that can come from a phish, that can come from a smish, that can come from a vish. It can come from a weird post that's on one of the platforms. So it's something to think about, and it could be a little expensive to recover from if you do get hit with it. But again, it's just something to be aware of, and It's not something to be, terrorized by. Card skimming, it's kind of like getting that card information from that child, right? It's a little bit of the same thing, but anything that compromises a form of payment for you, like a credit card, a debit card, or even your PayPal or your Apple Pay account, those are the types of things that are delicious for fraudsters and bad actors online. And so those are the types of things that we just want you to be aware of and have kind of a situational awareness about. The scams and the threats, I'd like for the parents to be extra wary of. So if any of us are participating in cryptocurrency markets, exchanges, or if any of you are investing in NFTs, just be careful about the reputation of the services providing the NFTs. So do your homework on the companies themselves providing the service, the NFT, the crypto, the exchange. Do your research. Rug pulls and pig butchering and pump and dumps are scam types kind of the same flavor, but they are particularly rampant in cryptocurrency and cryptocurrency exchanges and NFTs. So rug pulls, pump and dumps, and the one that I forgot to put in here is pig butchering. Those are some things that you can search in Google or LinkedIn and you can find tons and tons of information about. No questions, moving right along. Ryan, I feel like I've been bogarting the microphone. Do you want to take it?
No, this is all great information, Siobhan. I'll chime in as needed, but yeah, you can keep going if you like.
Sure. These are some foundational rules, right? So we had I'm just going to go back a couple of slides. These are the risks that we've specifically called out for parents and children. And these are kind of more granular lists of threats. And now we have some rules that we can use to mitigate the threats that we just saw. So these would be things to put on the fridge. Assume that it's public. These are rules to live by for internet interactions. Assume everything is public. Assume that that chat message with the little winky face is public and your principal will see it. Assume that that photo that you sent with you holding that slice of cake for your birthday, assume that is public. If it's public, that means anybody can know that on a specific day, you had a piece of cake that looked a lot like birthday cake, and maybe that picture was taken on your birthday. And maybe there is digital information underneath that picture that says when that picture was taken and where. Those are information sources that exist. And so when you post a photo, it's not just the colors and composition that get uploaded. It is the device type, the time, and geographical information about that photo, when that photo was taken with what device and where. So just please know that it's not just the smile that gets shared around the internet. If I'm a bad guy, or if I pretend to be one on TV, I know how to source the information out of pictures. So it's just something to be aware of. Assume it's public. Assume that anyone can see it. Anyone with the internet can see your stuff. Just assume it. And if you assume that everybody can see what you're photographing and typing, you are less likely to be, for a horrible turn of phrase, caught with your pants down.
That's a great point, Siobhan. And if you almost operate under the assumption that anytime you upload something, that somewhere there is a bad guy out there looking to exploit the information within that photo, I think you're going to be a little bit more careful about what you upload and exactly what you're revealing. Case in point, a few months ago, we purchased a house, and as most families do, we took a picture in front of the house. There was a car parked in the driveway. The listing agent sign was still posted on the lawn, but not wanting to give anything away really, other than, hey, we purchased this house. We made sure to very strategically block that information out of the picture before posting it. Not that anyone who follows me would care to do anything nefarious, but again, you just never know. So just operating under the assumption that, err on the side of caution is always just a safe play.
Yes. Also, something to potentially keep you up at night. Think about the people in your family. Do you have people who are involved with politics or who are executives at companies? Do you have people that have any kind of public persona at all, or a wide social network? Do you have anyone in your family who is a potential target? If yes, then you and your child could be used as vectors or channels of attack to that person in your family. And because children are eager, talkative, compliant, they want to help, they want to feel appreciated, they want to feel acknowledged, and they just want to feel special, they can be made to compromise somebody else. And so think about your family, and your child is a person in that family, and they are a vector of potential compromise for the family. So again, I'm not trying to be fear mongering. I'm not trying to be inflammatory. I'm just trying to paint a picture based on weird stories I've heard. And, I went to high school with the mayor of Milpitas. I am a Milpitas High School alum. I should have said that in the beginning during my intro. I'm an alum of the Milpitas Unified School District. And so it is an absolute pleasure to be speaking with parents in the same school district that I graduated from. But I have exposure. I have links to people in places of particular power. Not that I'm interesting myself, but I am in that person's orbit. And so just being affiliated or related to somebody who is in a position of power is enough to make you a target. So again, it's situational awareness. Be aware of your relationships. Be very frank with your kids about how they should interact online. They should also remember that the internet does not forget. The internet is written in ink. It does not get erased. There is no delete button. The snaps do not disappear. There is no vanish. Those are all just smoke and mirrors in the apps. There is no delete. There is no delete. So anything that goes up can be up and stay up forever. So that's another thing to keep in mind when posting things online and just kind of curating your online persona. There is no delete. Yeah, so make sure it's public and know that it cannot come down. Even if you take it down, it's not really down. It may be hidden for some, but it is not hidden for all. This has to do the little purple WhatsApp icon. That's where I'm at right now. So you can block unknowns. If you don't know somebody, you don't have to talk to them. Block them. They don't owe you anything and you don't owe them anything. So just block away, block, 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 block. It's going to be your new favorite term. Kids love to play with blocks. Now they can play with these blocks. It's not the same as blurro blocks, but a little similar. And then the count to 3 before clicking, that really just echoes back to our fish, smish, bish. Be on the lookout for that. So anytime you get a message from someone that you do not expect, count to 3, consider the consequences, think, and you don't have to click that thing right away. You don't. All right, and now we're going to look at some potential outcomes and just hold on. It's going to be a little rough, but there can be some icky stuff happening. There can also be wonderful things on the internet, but there is this stuff too. Child exploitation material. Sometimes it is called CP for child porn. Sometimes it is called CSAM, CSAM, I want to say that it's called. It's it may be EM, child sexually exploitative materials. So CSEM, CSAM, sometimes it's called. But this is really any exploited child online. This can be a photo, a video, this can even be an audio recording. It doesn't even have to really be real. This can be just, video game content that someone designed. But child exploitative materials are a huge problem. It is a massive business, and it's a successful business still, unfortunately. Ryan, Parul, and I are involved with organizations that take these kinds of networks down and work with authorities to criminally pursue people who participate in this type of activity, because it makes us all very sick. But it does exist, and you gotta look at the ugliness in order to know how to defeat it. So again, with the pictures, don't share pictures. Be very careful about what you photograph, and be careful about what photos you share online, especially as parents. When I had my first child, baby pictures all the time. Instagram and Facebook were flooded with my little baby boy. Now, I didn't show his butt, and I didn't show his little private parts, and I didn't show a lot other than his cute little face and whatever little outfit top he had. But oftentimes my camera angles were terrible anyway. But your kids, when they're in an engaged relationship with someone that has earned their trust, they are going to slip, and they're going to send a photo. And so it is very important for us to repeat, and just ingrain it into their sponge brains, not to share photos. Do not share photos, and do not allow anybody to take a photo of you. Don't stand in front of a mirror. Ryan, did you want to add anything to that dark spot?
So Ryan he'll be right back. So
very good. Okay.
answer is no.
Parul, do you want to add anything to that bullet?
No, I really appreciate you doing this, Shivan. And I know when we hear these things, sometimes it is hard to believe.
I have a pit in my stomach right now just talking about it. So it is extremely difficult. But again, we have to know it in order to fight it.
That is correct. And I was looking at some statistics, and just so you know, social media is the place where 80% of child sex crimes start. So data never lies. And I believe I have one more statistics which says about 4% of the kids ages between 8 and 11, they have shared their nude photos on the internet. The number is not big, it's 4% when you look at just percentage, but if you translate the percentage into actual numbers, it's a huge number. And kids are kids. So I can relate to it, Shivan, when you say you feel the pit in your stomach, because I feel it in my stomach. I just want everyone to know these are things that happen. And the best defense is making our kids aware and letting them know that, hey, you don't have to share your pictures. So just whatever Shivan said, repeating that message to our kids over and over and over.
Mm-hmm. You also don't have to accept photos. So if your child is being sent photos, and what will happen, there will be some kind of exchange. A perpetrator will say, oh, I'll share a photo with you, or hey, I have a picture of this fresh batch of puppies that was just born a couple of weeks ago. Do you want to see the puppies? and that person will send them a little pile of puppies. You don't know where that pile of puppies came from. It probably came from Google image search. But now there is an implied reciprocity, or it might even be an explicit reciprocity, where your perpetrator is saying, well, I shared something with you, you should share something with me. That line right there, you should share with me. That's what you need to warn your kids about. Anyone who is baiting your child into feeling guilt unless they do something, that is the danger spot. So it really doesn't matter what type of threat it is, but if your child is made to feel less than because they won't do something for someone online, bad, 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 bad. Make your child feel comfortable telling people no. Your child should feel comfortable saying no to anyone online. If they somehow are in a friendship with someone and the exchange has happened already, I hope that as parents, we all can take a breath and forgive our child quickly and go into the process of prevention of further compromise and alerting appropriate authorities of what has happened if that's necessary. And again, a teachable moment for the child of what happens if their photo is shared. Now, I know that this is going to be potentially controversial, but this is just my own personal parenting style. I don't expect other people to do it. I'm just going to share what I do so that you know. I am very forward and direct with my kids. I probably overshare with them about awareness of specific threats. Now, my kids are 4 and 7. Neither of them have their own phone, but both of them know how to operate an iPad and an iPhone, but they only have iPads for themselves and they only have like YouTube for kids and games and stuff. But they know how to use those devices. And so anybody on the sidewalk can just hand them a device and that kid knows where the camera is, they know where the messaging is, and they know what the internet icons look like. And I know my kids are very capable. And so I know for sure that your kids are very capable of learning on the fly. I went down a rabbit hole and I lost my place, but I want parents to know that if the child has a misstep or if the child has a mistake, it's not the end of the world. And further harm can be prevented and mitigated. So I really I don't want parents to be like, oh, what do I do? Awareness, 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 and open communication with your child. So far, it's worked for me, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Siobhan. I don't know if you remember the episode of Darknet Diaries or I think it was Jordan Harbinger, but instead of going scorched earth and removing your child from social media completely and not allowing them to participate in social media, really focusing on the fact that it can be a teachable moment and taking that as an opportunity to share why something is potentially dangerous or dangerous. So good takeaway there.
Thanks, Ryan.
Can I say one quick thing? I know we are over a little over time, but there was a FBI agent who was basically teaching us on how to protect the kids, and he gave us a great advice. I just want to repeat it. And he was like, don't force your kids to hide things from you, especially on the internet. Trust me, they will beat you to it. The best thing you can do is be their friend so that they can bring their problems to you. That's the best approach. You cannot compete with them when it comes to internet. They're super smart.
Spot on.
Great point.
Since we're lagging a bit, and that's probably because I get very chatty when I'm talking about this, I'm going to go quickly through the remaining outcomes here, and then we'll pop into our do's and don'ts and conclusion, and then we can take more questions. But again, some things that can happen based on internet relationships is trafficking and kidnapping. Trafficking can also lead to child exploitative materials, and obviously just separation from family is damaging enough. Identity theft, account hacking, if a kid shares a security question type of information, like what car does your mom drive, or what color is your house, or a very generic question like that. Fewer services are relying on those types of things online nowadays, but you never know, that stuff is still out there. So if there is anyone still using these services, your account can be taken over with very little information. And also, please use unique passwords, unique complex passwords, and use a password manager. I recommend LastPass and KeyPass. And I recommend using that with your child too. Your child should have their own little database of saved passwords, or they can share yours. And then unwanted attention. And this can come in the form of harassment, bullying, really any type of unwanted attention, and any attention may be unwanted for your particular child, like it was for me when I was a child. All right, we're gonna go ahead and bang through the do's and don'ts, and we've covered a lot of this already, but do definitely keep the conversation open. This is not a taboo topic to discuss with your children. The internet is all around us. The internet is only going to become more engrossed in each of our individual lives, and Lord knows what it's going to be when our kids are our age. We really can't predict the future in terms of what the exponential age that we're living in is going to bring us in the next 30 years. And so be open to discussing these options, be aware of the resources available to you. And like Parul mentioned, be that safe harbor for your child, be that area of safety that your child can bring their problems to you. And a lot of these dangers will be avoided. And one thing to keep in mind is I would ask you, please don't blame your child for anything that happens to them or anything that they do online. It is very easy to just get into a situation and just keep going, even if you really don't know what you're doing, and kids can do that very easily. And so please don't blame them. Please don't put any shame upon them if they have made a mistake. And it's also best not to assume that anything has indeed happened. Hear the evidence, draw your conclusions, and be that ally that your child needs in a moment of crisis if they in fact enter into one through the internet on social media. We'll go ahead and do some basic hygiene. Know what apps your kids have. Know who their followers are, how many followers, have it be an appropriate number. Tell your kids about bots and how bots work. And if you don't know, just ask us. And obviously what we've been covering this whole time is what information they share on these platforms. All right. Thank you so much for hanging with us, and sorry that we went over a little bit of time, but concluding our day, we just want to drive home that awareness. We want to support open communication in homes and with families to discuss what can happen online. And we want everyone to be hygienic on the internet and with social media. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Parul. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Siobhan. One quick note, we will be doing 2 more sessions. The next session will be on safe browsing best practices. So we'll go into the details of the tools that are available for you to monitor the apps, to monitor what your kids are doing. And again, it's not a matter of not trusting your kids. It's just being a matter of being vigilant. And the third session is where we'll talk about identity theft and how kids are targeted and how you can freeze your kids' credit history or credit report to save them from being a victim of identity theft. So these are the 2 topics that we'll be covering every Thursday for next 2 Thursdays, 5 p.m. I will say 5 p.m. to 6:15 instead of 6, because we are passionate and we just start, when we start talking, we don't stop. So with that, thank you so much for investing your time and allowing us this opportunity to talk to you about what we are most passionate about. Thank you.
Hey, Parul. Thank you, Siobhan, Ryan, and Parul. This is Rupal. I'm PTA Vice President, and on behalf of the whole team, just wanted to thank you for a wonderful session and looking forward for the next one. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rupal. Thank you for giving us this opportunity.
Yes, thank
Sure.
you so much, Rupal.
Our pleasure. Thank you so much, guys, for your time.
Great. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks. Bye-bye.